We welcome on a very special guest to the Kyle Ave podcast, former defensive lineman for the Texas A&M football team and co-host of the Aggie War Pod. It's Jay Arnold. Jay, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, fellas. Just got off the road from a long road trip up to Bozeman, Montana. But I appreciate you fellas having me on.
Bozeman?
You fishing?
No, it was the Sinjay away trip, the annual Twitter bracket that I run during Texas A&M's bye week. Have people vote on like a random college football game for me to go to. And this year it was Idaho at Montana State that won it. So I went and watched the Bobcats, a ranked FCS matchup, by the way. It was supposed to be a banger of a game, but Montana State, I think, is just really good this year. They blew out Idaho.
Wait, do you pick like a pool of those games, or is it just like...
Yeah, I just find out what games are happening during A&M's bye week and have people vote on it. The first year, Baylor at West Virginia won, so I went up to Morgantown. Last year was Fort Lewis College at South Dakota School of the Mines, little D2 football action. And then obviously this year, the Montana State game, which was a blast.
How far was that drive?
I think on its own, it's just about a 26-hour drive one way from Houston. But we did the math on it, and it was over, including like, because we stopped at Yellowstone National Park and Grand Tetons while we were up that way. Got to. We did over 60 hours of drive time and over 4,000 miles. So,
oh my God,
it was a hell of a trip.
What was the environment like? I mean, that's got to be just an insane experience, I would think.
Dude, it was electric. Montana State has an incredible atmosphere. Now, obviously, like FCS, it's not going to be 100,000 seat stadiums like we're used to in the SEC or some of the other places I've been. But I mean, it was, if you're a college football fan, you would love to go see a game up there in Bozeman. Those people love their Bobcat football. And it felt like the whole valley showed up to watch them play. Sick entrance. They had like the horses run out with like, they're carrying flags with like Bobcat spelt out. It was sick, dude.
Wait, so is that this, like, I'm not a TikTok expert, but is that the school with like the TikTok boys, the one who's like dating Christian Cavallari? Is that the one?
I know it's in the state of Montana. I've heard of the Montana boys, but I got to be honest with you, I have not watched any of their content. Thankfully, it hasn't popped up on my algorithm.
Christian Cavallari guy, hand up. I'll give you that.
I'm a Bears fan, so I'm kind of a Cutler guy, I guess.
Cutler through and through. Team Cutler. We might have to steal that content idea. That is fucking amazing. Very cool.
Yeah, dude, it's been sick. And like the past 2 years turned it into a fundraiser. And each of the last 2 years, we've hit 11,000 raised for food banks around the country, which feels pretty good to just like take a random college football idea and then turn it into something good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Love it, man. That's awesome. I do quickly want to take you back to young Jay Arnold. He's being recruited by Kevin Sumlin. Talk to us about what that experience was like. What was it that made you like want to be an Aggie? Did you get picked up in the swag copter? Did he pull up in said swag copter? I mean, we'd love to just hear what that experience was like.
I think the swag copter did make an appearance at one of our games in Rockwall. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time. A lot of blows to the head in between. But no, I mean, the recruitment process, it's crazy. It's only gotten crazier with NIL and everything, but I had a blast. What really drew me to A&M was two things. I was lucky enough to play for Terry Price. He was my position coach at A&M. Just an incredible human being that I knew I wanted to play for. Really funny story. When he first came to my high school to recruit me, he was with Texas Tech, and then obviously made the switch out there. Coach Sumlin had a great story about that. Basically, looking out the window in Lubbock in winter, and it was snowing, and told TP if he wanted to come down to College Station. The weather's great down there, and obviously TP being an Aggie himself, came down, and you could feel his passion for the place. And the other piece of it is just like the Aggie network, the traditions. It feels like a place that really permeates what college football is. And it felt like a no-brainer. And then obviously I was committed before the first SEC season took place. And then, being on the field that first game against Florida when the SEC era kicked off, I mean, I knew I made the right choice.
Yeah, same. I was at that game. That was when I decided to go to A&M as well.
Oh,
It makes
AgJack
it easy,
committed.
right?
Yeah, you committed the same way. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was a big
committed
deal.
on the spot.
Wait, so I got to ask,
yeah.
speaking of TP, right? Talk me through how incredible was the barbecue? Because I've seen the videos. It just looked unbelievable.
Dude, the D-line cookouts, I mean, just the food was so good all the time. He'd mix it up too. Sometimes steaks. Dude, I remember one night we had like steaks and like fried catfish. And I mean, dude, we were eating good. Let me tell you, the D-line cookout was a recruiting pitch in itself, just because how good he was on the grill. I mean, again, really lucky to have played for him.
That's awesome, man. Aggie, a true Aggie through and through. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
we've only
No doubt.
heard good things about TP. Well, you played football for 2 seasons with the Aggies before you retired due to injury. One of your years happened to overlap with a guy named Johnny Manziel. So what was it like for the team having a quarterback like Johnny where you felt like you were never really out of a game?
I mean, dude, and Mike Evans on that offense too. Just like the talent that guy had. There were times in practice, right, where you're kind of just standing off to the side and watching him just do his thing out there, and like watching somebody try to pull off plays that shouldn't work for anyone, and somehow they do, would never get old. There are times in practice where you're like, it's defense against offense, whatever you're working. Obviously, like there's a quick whistle, right? If you pressure the passer at all, they're blowing that whistle pretty quick. And there are times that Johnny's laughing. It's like, that's not a sack in a real game, right? And it's like, unfortunately, yeah, you're probably right about that.
Were there
Did you ever
times
have any practice that you felt like you had made the play that you would have taken him down?
I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, but who knows? Again, it's so long ago now. It feels like it's 10 years, which is kind of wild to say. I feel so old. But there was a couple times where I feel like I got back there, quick enough and with enough, from the blind side that I would have made the play.
Was Johnny a pretty solid shit talker? Was there a lot of back and forth between him and the defense?
Oh, there's always chirping going on, especially like during two-a-days with the offense, because you see the same guys every day for like 4 straight weeks. You're not playing against anybody. You don't have that light at the end of the tunnel yet, and it leads to a lot of chirping back and forth between the offensive and defensive units.
All right, we got to know behind the scenes. I'm hoping you were involved in this, or you at least knew. There was a big rumor that year. Midnight Yell. It was.
Is this the Drake humor?
Was Drake coming? Was that ever even remotely a thing?
Oh, I don't know. I did my part to help perpetuate that rumor, though. I was like, I'm just gonna buy into it and see if we get people talking about it. He had the "Nothing Was the Same" album, I think was the one that was coming out that year.
I'm Drake,
dude.
Tweet out a couple owl emojis, see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was ever gonna happen, but I wanted people to believe, and the hype to first yell that year was, I mean, dude, people were asking me nonstop, "Hey, is Drake really coming?" It's like, I don't know.
Like,
just
no peers
I feel like that was always a response. Everyone's like, I mean, we'll see. Who knows? Like,
who knows?
Could happen. All right, well, let's talk about the Chick-fil-A Bowl. And I want to hear before we'll talk about the game. But I can only imagine sophomore year Johnny in Atlanta, nothing to lose. What was the bowl like celebrations leading up to that? Was he wild and was he locked in? Talk us through what that was like.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like when you get to A&M, when you get to football, you kind of hang out with like your position group and your like defensive guys, and then your recruiting class. So I didn't like run with Johnny much, honestly, out and about. I know we made it to, I think it's called the Opera in Atlanta at one point, and it's kind of all a blur. I do remember the next day having to run gassers at the Georgia Dome and leaving a little bit out there before they closed down that stadium.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it out.
That was an insane game. I mean, you guys were down 38-17 going into halftime with season, and then come back, hair on fire in the second half, and win that game. I think, what was it, like 52-50, some crazy number like that. What was that like when you guys, like, going into halftime? Did you all believe that you could do that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, like you never want to be on a team where people don't believe that you can come back, and it felt like everybody was just pissed off going in the locker room. I mean, that was a good Duke squad. Jameson Crowder at wide receiver was a monster in college. Anthony Boone at quarterback. They had some guys on the offensive line that were real studs. But I think we collectively were just so pissed off that we wanted to go back and kind of punch them back in the mouth after, what happened in the first half. Obviously, we had a ton of defensive struggles that year. I would know being in a lot of those meetings, and
Right.
it didn't feel like we were out of it at halftime. I think everybody just kind of locked in and was like, all right, 38-17, we know who we have on offense. We can get this back.
I feel like for a lot of people, it'd be easy to just kind of be like, we ended up in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. It's not where we wanted to be this year. It's not where we thought we would be. And we're down by 21 at halftime. Like, let's just throw in the towel. So you think about that a lot in bowl season. To see you guys come back like that was pretty crazy. So I don't know. What was the mindset like going into that game? Was it like, we have to win this game to prove X, Y, Z? Or was it just...
I mean, it was just another football game, to be honest. For me, that one was super special. I didn't find out until like right before kickoff, but that ended up being my first career start at A&M.
Let's go.
And dude, I just remembered like finding out before kickoff, hey, you're going. And it was, I mean, yeah, it's easy to like sit back and like think, I was cool and collected, ready to go, next man up mentality or whatever. I was nervous as shit. I did not expect to start there in the last game of the season. And it was a ranked versus ranked matchup, like big time football. I know it's Duke, but Duke was very good under Cutcliffe that year.
Yeah.
It was, man, I mean, the mentality, you approach it as like any other game. You want to go out there and win. All of the guys are ultra competitive. I don't think there was any like real special stakes really, because again, it was a Chick-fil-A Bowl at the end of the day. Not like you're playing in the Orange Bowl or one of these big time games, but anytime you're out there, you want to beat the other guy's ass.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so you went from that crazy high of like you had the up and down year, right, of 2014. You go into the next year. Talk about the USC game, USC, University of South Carolina, to be clear, right? Kenny Trill, legend, is born. What was that like? Did you guys think it was like, this is our year, we're taking it all the way? Or, I mean, what was Kenny's mindset?
Yeah, I mean, dude, after that game, we all thought like, hey, we've got something special this year. First game of the season, Sandstorm had been played at practice, like
Yep.
all of 2-a-days leading up to that. It basically became our like fight song going into that game. So we were all hyped going into that stadium, ready to shut up, all the South Carolina fans who are giving it to us. And we go out there and do what we did. And, we thought about it and we're like, I mean, that was a top 10 opponent that we just knocked off on the road to start the season. Yeah, 52-20. I mean, we beat the hell out of them for sure. I think we all collectively thought like we had something special in after that game.
They had me believing in John Chavis after that game. I mean, what was Coach Chavis like? Was he pretty special guy?
Well, it was still Snyder at that time.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. No worries.
That's on me. Ball knowledge, check. I'll that's hand out.
Gives himself every week.
No, but I mean, I never played under Chavis. Got to kind of meet him, as I was on my way out of the program. Met him a couple times in the recruitment process when he was at LSU, but I think there was a lot of hype for him coming in. But as far as Snyder, I mean, I had a lot of fun in that defense, a lot of exotics, a lot of blitzes being called. It just kind of, didn't work out in the end. But man, I thought I like the way our defense performed that first game. Some of the young cats that came in, obviously Miles first year, like he was immediately a difference maker. Armani Watts at safety, dude, like as a true freshman already knew he was special. Dono playing a lot of nickel.
Yeah. We talked to Dalen Mack, who he was listing the names on that defense, and we were just like, oh my God, like what happened? Like, why didn't we finished top
NFL
5.
starter, NFL starter. That was young Ricky Seals too. Like we had it on both sides of the ball too.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of talented cats out there. Man, it really did feel like a special year shaping up, and it's I think we had a lot of youth was part of the issue. It's just kind of hard to stay level from week to week when you have a lot of guys who really aren't used to it as much. But yeah, it did feel like all the names and how well they were playing early on that it was going to be a big year.
Yep. So let's change gears a little bit. Let's get into this season. It's been pretty crazy. Obviously, we lose that Notre Dame game. We don't look the part. We kind of sleepwalk through a couple games. We have the quarterback controversy. Last 2 weeks have been kind of like the hype train. Like everyone's back on the Aggies. We're ranked 14th. We have the schedule lined up right in front of us. What do you think about the Aggies this year and their prospects for making the college football playoff?
I think there's a real shot. Like everybody else, I was kind of down on it after the Notre Dame game. Offensively, we just didn't look good at all. But now, like in hindsight, I can't help but wonder like how much the injury affected Wigman, right?
Yep.
Like I think that was a big part of the struggles offensively. And our most recent game against Mizzou, it just felt like the receivers performed better than they have all year. They were getting open. Obviously, Le'Veon Moss has been a revelation at running back. And I can't say enough good things about Adam Cushing for the offensive line and the work that he's done with that unit as the offensive line coach. Feels like the Aggies have a real shot to get in for the playoff. Part of that, too, is, having a little bit of a favorable schedule. The big tests and LSU and Texas moving forward. Obviously, those are going to be tough games, but I think they're winnable, especially that game against LSU. We'll see. I think there's real promise for the rest of the season.
What's your take on the quarterback situation? Because we've been like up and down, up and down. We like Marcel. We loved Wegman coming into the year. We didn't know what to make of the Notre Dame game. It feels like after watching the Missouri performance, this is the guy we had all along, and he was just hurt. We're hoping that he's gonna push that moving forward. We know we have a good backup in Marcel. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like how much that injury really played a factor in what happened with Wigman to start the year. He looked special against Mizzou, and you saw how much it opened up the offense through the air with him slinging it out there. I'm thinking about 2015, and I'm like, I don't want another quarterback situation like that. But it seems like these guys have kind of rallied around each other, which I love to see. So really the way I'm looking at it is you have a great quarterback, provided Wigman can keep doing what he did against Mizzou. And then you have a guy waiting in the wings who's going to be ready to take over, who has already gotten very valuable SEC experience in Marcel Reed, and who adds another bit of offensive threat in his legs, right? Like going into this season, one of my concerns was how Wigman would fit into a Colin Klein offense. Just because you see a lot of design quarterback runs, or you have in the past, and for me, Wigman isn't really the guy that you want to have doing a lot of read option or even quarterback power. And to be fair, like Marcel Reed isn't really your power runner, like a guy like Riley Leonard that A&M faced in the first game of the year. But he does have that element of you have to account for him on designed runs. Wigman was a great runner in high school. And obviously he's dealt with some injuries, lower body stuff, since then. But one of the other pieces that I saw against Mizzou is his ability to scramble felt better than it has in his time at A&M. So I'm kind of over the moon. Again, we'll see if Wigman can replicate what he did against Mizzou for the rest of the season. But it feels like, if he can continue to improve and if he is truly 100% healthy, A&M has a embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position.
Totally.
Yep. I was really pumped to see his answer also in the press conference, I think earlier this week, right? Of just supporting Marcel and saying, that's my guy. I'll do whatever I need to for him. Where in a time that's so dominated by the transfer portal, and like if you show any flash, right, like any school is going to throw money at you to come play and get reps right away. Like you're saying, right? I would love to have the depth at the QB position, which is just so rare these days. So hopefully we can see them both stick around at the goal.
Yeah, and I mean, like if Wigman balls out the rest of this year, you know, the draft profile is still there for him to go early, and in an ideal situation, I think Wigman balls out, carries A&M deep in the playoff, and then heads to the league, and Marcel Reed slots right in. I think that's the ideal situation for anyone at Texas A&M, and I think that's still a real possibility. Again, if he can replicate the Mizzou performance for the rest of the year.
I'm going to say it the way this quarterback class is looking so far. If Wegman plays like that, how he played against Missouri the rest of the year, he might slide in. He might slide in the top 5. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real shot, especially with the premium that's placed on quarterbacks. We'll see what happens with that, but I would not be surprised to see him go pretty high up on the draft boards if he continues to play like he did against Mizzou.
Let's go. So looking ahead to the Mississippi State game, I want to take you back quickly before we go to it. There's a certain player it's getting less impressive now as every week in the NFL goes on. But you did have a tackle on Dak Prescott. Let's talk about what that was like before we talk about Mississippi State.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Dak was a bit of a different player in college than he has been in the NFL. Obviously, part of that is just the speed of the NFL. Except for the guys that are like real true runners, guys like Lamar, people like that. You don't see them run as much, but Dak in college was essentially a second coming of Tim Tebow, right? Like a really powerful guy. You didn't know how good he was throwing the ball at all times. Had a tendency to be a little bit inaccurate, but he was a guy you had a game plan for big time. And I know going into that one, we knew it was going to be a big test. Obviously, Mississippi State gets the win. Still hate the sound of cowbells, and I will for the rest of my life. I think on that tackle I made on Dak, I got a knee right to the side of the head. Ooh. And hearing cowbells for the rest of the game after that, not a fun experience.
Oh, yeah.
I'll die on this hill. I think if we win that game, and I'm curious to get your opinion, I think those jerseys could go down as some of our best.
No.
They were really cool in the moment because it was always cool to walk into the locker room and get surprised by an alternative jersey. Aggie FB Life, like they had the cameras rolling and everything in there, and you can probably still see how excited we were. But in hindsight, I don't think those jerseys have aged well. I don't know if winning the game would have been enough for those jerseys to be great. I think it just had too much going on. I think there was just too many moving parts.
Totally. The shine was sick. I was like, it's got to have looked cooler close up, but the sting of losing the game when it was like, oh, like this is our moment, we're here, and just getting, it was.
I feel like Adidas had so many of those moments where they rolled out like really shitty, busy jerseys, and then we would just get our ass kicked in them. But I mean,
the glow in the dark ones, South Carolina, electric, dude. You never hear me complain about that.
And people don't talk about it, but the throwbacks we wore against Louisiana Monroe, I got the one behind me back there.
I love them.
Sick.
The jersey was cool. The helmet was not.
Those are my favorite. I was telling him earlier, those are my favorite that y'all have ever worn, and he hates them. I don't know. We're gonna disagree.
I love them.
He's a soccer guy. Billy's a soccer guy. This is why.
Keep it classy, man. Jimbo didn't believe in.
Yeah, but I mean, like the icy whites weren't classy, like the super icy whites with the.
But that was in at the time, like as flashy as you could be. Versus like I feel like it was like a little over the hump. It's like like the leather helmet. I was like, oh man.
Someday we'll do. I thought the leather helmet was so cool.
They'll do the Corps of Cadets uniform someday. Swear to God, I know it's coming. I've seen it on Twitter a few times.
I don't think it works for football. I think it would work for baseball, but I don't think it works at all for football.
Yeah, for baseball, it could. Yeah. Sidebar, last night, I don't know if you guys were watching Monday Night Football, but the Jets wearing their throwback uniforms, and the throwback uniforms being the uniforms that they wore when we were kids, that just made me feel kind of weird. I was
dude, I just turned 30 last month, and it just feels like it's all hitting at once. All the things that just make you feel so old.
But I want them to go back to those uniforms. I think those are great.
At least you have a reason for like back pain, like whatever, like knee pain. Like you put in time for that.
That's what I say. Like when people tell me that I'm still young, I'm like, well, yeah, but I had a lot of miles on the body.
It's like a running back. All right, cool. What else?
Wait, so let's talk about the Mississippi State game. We got caught up. So the Mississippi State game this week. Is it a trap? Like, do we feel like it's a trap game? I think Elko seems like the kind of coach to have the boys ready. I don't see our defense slipping up. I think the offense is going to continue to dominate, hopefully. But curious. I mean, they played well versus Georgia last week. It's not a game to sleep on, clearly. So
They did and they didn't. It was 34-10 at one point in that game with Georgia up. They outgained them, I think, 600 to 300 yards. So I think that game was not as close as the score line at the end of it indicated.
Even still, though, putting up points on Georgia, I don't care if it's the backups for Mississippi State, who's 1-5 now. Like, I got to give them a little bit of credit for that.
I mean, maybe a little bit. But you look at like what Mississippi State has done this year. The loss to Toledo, where they got boat raced by a MAC school. They didn't look good against Florida. It's, I do think this is a bit of a trap game. I think Mike Elko has done a great job of not providing any bulletin board material for Mississippi State. But you're coming out of a bye week. It's the first bye week in the Mike Elko era. There's a lot of things to consider going into it. But then I look at Mississippi State and what they've done this year. Defensively, like all of their stats are in the hundreds, like as far as rankings nationally. They don't run the ball well. They allow a lot of sacks. I mean, this feels like a game where A&M just matches up really well with them, even if, it was a good team. Like, it would still be a good matchup for A&M, but this isn't a good team. So you'd like to see A&M go out there and take care of business. With that being said, again, 2-4 all time in Starkville for A&M. Not great. The cowbells are going to be a factor. We'll see how they handle it. If it's the first, trap game test of the Mike Elko era.
So exactly. You're right. Like, that was what I was going to say. It's a litmus test for this era. Like, maybe in the past with Jimbo, this is a game we walk into confidently and then we just lay an egg. Same with the Sumlin era. You just never knew what you were going to get. This is like, hey, Mike Elko, can you keep these guys focused and just run over a bad team on the road that you're supposed to beat? And I know he's been talking all week about, hey, guys, this is our record in Starkville. Like, no bullshit. They're never that good, and this is our record in Starkville.
Yeah, and another piece of it is, like, at the end of the day, this is still an SEC team. They still have some dudes out there that are good athletes. It's not going to be something where you can just breeze through. There's still going to be some matchups that you have to worry about. Again, like, theoretically, A&M should walk through this team, but they haven't done it in the past. So this has to be a proving moment for Mike Elko and this squad.
Sure. Hopefully.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, if we lose to a 1-5 team, we don't deserve anything. That's all that needs to be said. But hopefully we stomp them. I mean, hopefully we just walk in there and we leave on Saturday being like, okay, this team's legit. We're good. We just killed a bad SEC team on the road. Like, let's go.
Yeah, and even if the game isn't smooth and like there's a lot of adversity for the guys to overcome, it's still how they respond to that moment. Because, again, like I said, at the end of the day, that is still an SEC team across from you, 1-5 or not, right? Like, they have dudes that you're gonna have to account for. It's not like you're just playing against air out there. So definitely interested to see how this team handles it. I would not be surprised one bit if Mississippi State comes out with a little bit of fire and A&M has to play from behind at some point in this game.
Was it like a pick six, or was it last year or 2 years ago? Pick six, like kick return combo down 14-0 with like a minute into the game.
That was South Carolina. Yeah, with yeah.
I'm 0 for 2,
Beamer
bro.
Ball.
I got married last week. I haven't been locked in, bro. I gotta tap back in.
That's the way baseball go.
Yeah, they just cooked us last year. Or not last year.
2 years ago. It was the Will Rogers.
This year we killed them with Jalen. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, all that being said, it's lining up for A&M to have a chance to control their own destiny in the SEC, right? So, from your perspective as someone who played in the SEC and seeing kind of how it's coming together with Georgia struggling a little bit, Alabama struggling a little bit, do you think, like, what are the chances that we end up in that SEC championship?
Very good, because if you look at the rest of the year, and I don't have the Vegas odds in front of me, I have a feeling A&M will be favored for a lot of the games moving forward. I think next week against LSU, they could very well be favored. They should be favored against all the other games against other than Texas. And I think even with just one SEC loss, that gets you to Atlanta, the way that Alabama and Georgia have struggled. Because I think Georgia gets another loss this weekend against.
No, don't say that, dude.
I know. I hate to say it. I don't enjoy saying it. I just think Texas is a better team than Georgia right now.
I just don't see Georgia losing 2 games before like halfway through the season. He's got too much talent on the roster.
Yeah, but I mean, you got Formula One in town, so who knows what kind of driving shenanigans the Georgia players might get up to. I mean,
that was strategic. That's actually fucked that they were like, you know what? Of all weekends, we're going to bring Georgia to Austin. Let's get as much high-speed vehicles as we can.
Formula One weekend, brother. It's going to be wild in Austin. I looked at hotels just to kind of have an idea, and it's like $1,500 for a night.
Yeah,
in town right now.
Let's go.
I don't think my Bonvoy points will cover that. Oh man.
So another question, sidebar here. I know that you were working with Good Bull Hunting for a little bit. Are you still there?
Yeah, I still do some content over there. I do trench previews, just kind of look at the offensive and defensive line matchups heading into games, and then some other stuff here and there.
Nice. So why does Robert Behrens hate us so much?
I don't know. You'd have to ask RCB that question.
Okay, I have.
Oh, wow. Well, then you probably know better than I do.
No, you still did. I think AgJack has some personal. They have vendettas over who's liking whose tweet, and you're like, come on, bro. They'll grow up someday. Maybe on his side.
He likes to sub us. He likes to sub us a lot. Regardless, I'm just joking. We've tried to get him on the show a couple times. So before we get into rapid fire, I wanted to talk.
Hey, Robert, if you're listening to this, bro, just come on over. We're ready.
Yeah, go talk to RCB. Tell him that AgKnocks.
Let's squash the beef live. How about that?
We know that talk about this AI app that you're using to build out betting models. It sounds really cool. I saw it on your social media. And then we want you to use that to give us our parlay because we are 0 for 8 and down over $200,000 this year.
Yeah. So Rhythm AI it's an AI betting tool that lets you build your own models. Here's the thing. I was a marketing major because it was the business major with the least math. And obviously they take that part out of your hands. You just pick what factors you want to use to come up with your picks. Offense, defense, big playability. There's a lot of different factors that you can roll into your models to kind of build out how you want to use it, and it makes the picks for you, so it's super easy. This is the second year I've been kind of working with them, and again, like, I don't know shit about math. I am terrible when it comes to numbers, so it's really nice that they're transparent with the process. That way you can figure out what works best, build your own models, or you can use their model. They have their own model too, where you can take picks from. Really, really cool tool for the people that are invested in sports betting. Can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. So like I mentioned, we do our parlay of the week. We want to take your picks here because we're sick of losing. Billy loses us the fucking parlay every single week. There's nothing we can do to avoid it.
Jay's gonna think I don't know ball after the. I'm 0 for 2 in this episode, bro. But like, this
entire audience knows the truth.
It's an uncharacteristic showing for me.
Well, 100%. Listen, so I haven't plugged in the numbers yet for this week, but I do have some games that I'm eyeing. I want to make sure I give Rhythm that out so that if I do badly on this, it's not reflecting poorly on them. I'm looking at dogs this week. We're starting off with Oregon's first real test of the year. They're playing a Friday night road game at Purdue, and if you've watched Big Ten over the years, you know that teams struggle. And I realize how bad Purdue has been this year. It feels like they found something at quarterback last week with Brown coming in and taking over for Hudson Card. Oregon maybe having a little bit of a hangover coming off the win against Ohio State, and we've seen them struggle against other teams this year. Purdue plus 27.5 is the first pick I'm going to recommend here.
It's a big number.
Then we go
Love
into
the shade. Love the shade of their first real test. I like that.
well, no. This is the bit of the joke among the Big Ten crowd. I don't know if y'all have any Big Ten listeners, but they'll understand how much of a test that Friday night kick at Purdue can be. The next game is Notre Dame at Georgia Tech. I have Georgia Tech plus 11, so we're on another dog here. I just think the way Georgia Tech plays football lends itself to low-scoring games, and in turn, low-scoring games tend to lead to closer games, generally speaking. 11 points there. I think old Haynes King is gonna get us that 11 points that we need there from
Are
Georgia
you a
Tech.
Haynes King guy?
I mean, we played against Longview in high school, my senior year. I got a soft spot for the teams that were in my district from back in the day. But yeah, I like Georgia Tech plus 11 there. And then the last game that I'm going to talk about, Arkansas LSU Golden Boot in Arkansas. I'm taking Arkansas plus 2.5. Triple dogs for this one. Here's the thing about this game. LSU has a little bit of a hangover off of the Ole Miss win overtime. They're going on the road to play against a team that I think everybody's discounting this year. And Arkansas has proven time and time again they're not somebody that can be discounted. Arkansas did just have the big win against Tennessee. They had the blessing of having a bye week after pulling off that upset, which is the perfect time to be hungover, to be honest with you. I think Arkansas is going to be real fired up for this one. It feels like, they have this one circled on the calendar. They want to get that trophy back for the first time in a long time. I like Arkansas plus 2.5, and I may sprinkle a little bit on the money line too.
Are we worried about Arkansas winning that game and giving LSU a little bit of a?
That's my biggest. If we have an LSU loss the week before, I fear for our safety in Kyle Field, man.
I wouldn't, because it's Kyle Field. If we were on the road in Baton Rouge, maybe. I don't think or LSU, whatever the outcome is, that's going to be a tough game. I don't think that losing to Arkansas would necessarily add more fuel to the fire. And LSU has also tried to give away a couple of SEC games already this year. The South Carolina game obviously comes to mind. That Ole Miss game was very close. So it just feels like LSU is going to struggle against Arkansas on the road in a rivalry matchup.
Imagine having Ole Miss +3 last week, or -3. It was
tough,
brutal.
Yeah, Penn State -3.5 was my bad beat.
Damn,
brutal. I didn't realize we were 14.5 point favorites at Mississippi State this week. I didn't even look at that until now.
Gotta be.
Love that. No letdown there. All right, so you guys heard it. We've got the Jay Arnold parlay of the week. We're gonna drop $300K on this to win $1.787 million. And we're gonna be up 1.4 after that. We're gonna owe Jay at least a beer, like a Miller Lite, a Natty Light.
Dude, I might go for a Keystone.
A Keystone that works.
Classy guy, love that.
Purdue plus 27.5, Georgia Tech plus 11, Arkansas plus 2.5. Let's get into rapid fire. Billy, got an ad read.
Yeah, let's do a quick one. Hey Aggies, feeling hungry after that big win, or maybe you just need a break from studying? Whatever the reason, Hungry Howie's has got you covered. With our signature flavored crusts and delicious toppings, we're the perfect way to fuel your Aggie spirit. So grab your friends, order Howie's, and let's cheer on our Aggies.
That's a new sponsor just because Dalen Mack said he loved Hungry Howie's on our podcast.
Dude, Hungry Howie's ribs. Dude, it was they had some good specialty pizzas back in the day that I would kind of miss it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Can't get ranch crust literally anywhere else on planet Earth.
The flavored crust elite for sure.
So good.
So good.
Shout out to Dalen. Appreciate that, man. That was big for us. All right. So Jay, we're going to do a quick, it's like 10, 12 questions. Just doesn't have to be a one-word answer, but just first thing that comes to mind. Just let it rip and we'll jump through them. First one off the bat, favorite college town that you visited.
So we're not counting College Station, I assume.
Correct.
Man, maybe it's just sitting heavy in my mind from last year, but State College was great for Penn State.
Love it. All right, your favorite game that you played in?
Chick-fil-A Bogan Stew.
Favorite place to eat in College Station?
Nothing beats late night Fuego. I'm sorry. I know it's a cop-out answer, but
I was waiting for Hungry Howie's, but I'll take Fuego.
Hungry Howie's.
All right, off the back of that, Canes or Lanes?
It's like Lane's better. It's the peppery sauce does it for me. It's more pepper in the sauce.
Extremely hot take. Try the ranch the next time you're in College Station.
I think you were the first Lane's choice of our rapid fire.
Listen, I'm really a Zaxby's guy though. If I had to pick
That's
anything.
big. That's big.
I like Zaxby's.
I dropped my phone in the toilet one time at a Zaxby's. Haven't been back since. So it's been tough. This one's easy for you. Drake or Kendrick?
Kendrick.
Oh, Jay.
Listen, I'm sorry.
I
love Drake and you know, Just Hold On, We're Going Home was played so much that year at practice. But Kendrick's just better.
That was a practice song?
Yeah, that's actually one of my least favorite Drake songs.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm more of a Tuscan Leather guy myself, but
yeah. Respect.
It's an interesting practice song.
All right, rather go to Northgate with Johnny Manziel or Kenny Hill?
Kenny's my guy. Love Kenny.
Let's go. Hopefully you weren't there.
I was not.
Whoever left him, man, we got to work on our team chemistry there. Over under 10 wins for the Aggies this year.
Over.
Okay, obviously. Funniest teammate.
Kimo Dipoti.
Oh wow,
dude!
I couldn't spell that name to be too.
Kimo's a legend, dude. Kimo's a legend. Yeah, I mean, you just kind of had to be there. Jarvis Harrison's up there too for being upset at Foursquare when that was happening in the locker room. Floyd Raven, incredible. Awesome. That had a lot of funny. I guess I gave you 3, but there you go.
No, that's good. I like the personality there. It sounds like there's some good personalities in the locker room. Yell leaders or cheerleaders?
Cheerleaders.
Thank you.
Good answer. Best player that you've played with?
Mike Evans. Myles Garrett. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Both Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, and then last one: Reed or Wegman?
It's Wegman, dude. I mean, again, like I think Reed will be very good next year, but I think you have to ride with Wegman until this season wraps up.
Yeah, that's fair. That was a better question when it was like, which Connor we're seeing. We've seen the real Connor. This is who we expected to see. So I absolutely love that. Shout out to Hungry Howie's for sponsoring the segment. Appreciate you, Jay. You crushed the rapid fire there. But yeah, you come into any games this year, you're going to be at the Texas game. What's the deal?
Nah, dude, I can't afford Texas game unless you're going to spot me on tickets.
AgJack said he wasn't like really dying to go. He was going to give up his tickets. So
oh, okay, fair enough. I think I'll be in town for the Aggie Bowl against New Mexico State.
Let's go.
Ooh, that's a big one. I just sold my tickets for that one. They actually went for $250, which was crazy because I sold Missouri for like $70. My 2 tickets. Just because it's an 11 a.m. I don't know.
Yeah, 5 p.m. game for the Aggie Bowl.
Yeah,
I'd say they're saying College Game Day's got it circled on the calendar.
Dude, I mean, hey, lost crucial.
Let's go.
Well, Jay, you're welcome to come to our Texas tailgate, even if you don't have a ticket to the game. But if you've got anything to plug, go ahead. Now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I do content all over the place. Aggie War Pod with Dave Campbell's. If you're a fan of Texas high school football, you're probably familiar with the name, all the great content they do. I also have my national college football podcast, The Get Back Coach, brought to you by Apollo Media. Do a lot of fun stuff there. My co-host is a Penn State guy, so it's really fun to have both an SEC and Big Ten perspective on the world of college football and everything that goes on. That's pretty much it. I mean, I got the Substack if you want to just check out some weekly college football picks, some other random musings. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jay Arnold.
Awesome.
Good deal.
Sweet. Well, we absolutely loved having you on, man. Appreciate you jumping on the pod, and you're always welcome back.
I appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for taking the time. Man, I kind of want Hungry Howie's now. I gotta say,
we got you. Hungry Howie's is gonna bring. They're gonna bring pizza to the tailgate. They just announced.
Perfect.
We'll get a couple of ranch crusts. We'll be like, all right, we're locked in.
Ready to go. Thanks again, fellas.
All right. Thanks.